to just do a quick review on multiplying proper fraction by proper fraction. And last week, we took a problem like this one here and showed how you could use an area model. So I could divide my area model into thirds and shade 2/3 of it. And then Megan, what would I do? Yeah, I could divide 3/4 this way and shade how many of those columns? 3, right? So I'm only going to shade 3 of them. And then I'm going to look for the area that's overlapping. So how many squares have both the yellow and the green? Yeah, Grace. 6, right? So that means my final answer is 6 out of how many, Grace? So this is this is a 2x3 of all the shaded, right? So there's 6 shaded, but out of how many originally? Yes. So out of 12. And if we simplify that, that's the same as a half, right? 6 out of 12 is a half. So when you look at the numbers around the border here, like the 4 and the 3, you see those same numbers down here, don't you? So the shortcut is just to multiply those. Put a multiply. And then when you look at these numbers here, the overlap area, you see those numbers here. So the shortcut there is to multiply. So to multiply fractions, it's nice to have that picture because it helps it make sense. But realistically, we just don't draw the picture all the time. We just don't always have time to draw a picture, or some of the pictures are too hard. So Jennifer, if I wanted to just do a problem without a picture, let's practice that. If I wanted to do 3/5 times 2 sevenths, what would you do?
I would multiply 5 times 7.
Yes. Multiply 5 times 7 and you get 35. And 6 times 2 is 6. And then you would check to see if 6 and 35 have any common factors. Like up here, these both are divisible by 6. So we were able to reduce it to 1/2. 6 and 35 don't have any common factors. Because the only thing that goes into 6 is, well, 1 goes into both. 2, 35 is not even. 3, remember the trick if you add the digits? 3 plus 5 is 8. 3 doesn't go into 8, so 3 doesn't go into 35. Or you might just think, well, you know, 3 goes into 30, and it goes into 33, and it goes into 36. It skips right over 35. So they have no common factors. 6 does not go into 35 because 6 times 5 is 30, and 6 times 6 is 36. That makes sense? Okay, so the new thing, you are going to use an area model for this new problem. This is where I want you to start taking some notes. And we're going to use that worksheet I gave you. And we're going to be on the side that just, the first one's, the first side, the side I want is that says, did you hear about? Did you hear about? Do you see that? And the thing about this little worksheet is it makes a little riddle. So it's kind of fun to do these because you'll know if your answer's right. So after we do A, we get an answer and then we figure out what to put in the box above. Do you see that? So if I want to do A, problem A is 2 2/3 times 1 3/4. So You can do an area model for this too, and it doesn't have to be very complicated. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's simpler. And I'm actually going to do multiplying. I need to do that one down here. Before I do that, I just want to make sure that you know how to multiply a whole number by a mixed number, which we've done a little bit. So what if I had like 3 times 2.5? So let's write that down in your notes. So this is my whole number right here, and that's my mixed number. See that? So if you just think about the picture before we do an area model, you would just be you could think about money. You could be thinking about money. You could think of this as 3 times $2.50. Does that make sense? So 3 times $2 is 6, right? So we sort of multiplied the 3 times the $2 first, and then we're going to add that to 3 times the 50 cents. So 3 times $2 is 6. 3 times 50 cents is how much? $1.50. So this is $7.50 if you think about money. Does that make sense? But how about the rest of you guys? Did you notice though when we did 3 times 2.5 then? We didn't just do the 3 times the 2. We had to do the 3 times the half. Okay? So you could draw a quick little picture of that. You could do 3 here, 2 here, and then just put a line and make a half here. Okay? So what's the area model just show 3 times 2 is 6, and then 3 times a half, just think of it as half of 3. But also you can think of 3 as a fraction all the time. 3 over 1 times 1 over 2. So do you see how this right here is the same as 3? So 3 times a half is just 3 times 1 over 3 times 2. So 3 over 2. Raise your hand if that makes sense so far. It's not finished. Okay. So like with the money, I added these together. But I'm going to first make a little more room here. So I'm going to first change my 3 halves to 1 and 1/2 because we want to change it to a mixed number. Does that make sense? So now I have 6 plus 1.5. 7.5 is my answer. So 3 times 2.5 is 7.5. We need to practice that. I'm going to do one more with you and then have you practice one. Okay? First, do you have any questions? Jack? So we're not to the sheet yet, and I'll explain that in a minute. Yeah, it looks a little complicated. Before we get to the sheet, we have to make sure we can do all the little pieces. Okay? So let's practice. Let me add in a page here. And we're going to practice let's say 4 times 2, 3 2/3. Remember, when you multiply, you have to multiply the 4 by both parts. So a way to think of that is with an area model. So in your notes, just make a quick little area model where you have a 4. And then the way I make the area model is like I draw a line here for my fraction. I put the whole part and the fraction part. So it's a little different than the area model that we were doing before. But it's the same idea, but it's a little different. And then there's two sections in that area model. See the two sections, the left and the right? So in the left section, you just do 4 times 3. So Claire, what's 4 times 3? 12. And then in the right section, you have to do 4 times 2/3. So remember, you can think of this as 4 over 1. Multiply the top numbers. What's 4 times 2? 8. And multiply the denominators. 1 times 3. 3. That's right. And then make it a mixed number. How many times does 3 go into 8? Good. Twice. And what's the remainder? Perfect. 2/3, right? So the final answer is 12 plus 2 and 2/3. 14 and 2/3. Okay? So, flip the paper over and try letter G. Do you see letter G? 4 1/3 times 6. So with your area model, one side's going to be 6, and one side's going to be 4 1/3. So 6. What would I put right here? I'm putting 2 parts. Somebody new. Joel, what do you think? I have to put 2 parts. I have the 6. What's going to go right there? 4. Perfect. And the other part, Jack? Right here? What do you think, Jamal? It'd be 1/3.
Oh.
You're breaking the mixed number up. Okay, so find those, do the multiply now. And I'm going to pause this. We'll just take a, what'd you get, Lucas, in this part right here? Like, what's goes right here? So you're multiplying 6 by both parts, right?
6 by both parts. So 6 times 4
Is
24.
24. And then now 6 times 1/3 goes right here.
So
You could just think of this as 6 over 1 times 1 over 3 and use the quick method. 6 times 1 is
6.
6
So 6.
over,
3. So
and 6 over 3 is the same as
1 is 2.
2. And did you notice there's blanks on letter G? So it's really the same as 24 plus 2. You see that? And that is equal to 26. Ellie, you want to try the next one? Okay, let's everybody go ahead and try the next one too. And then Ellie,
I can just do it right now.
tell me how you would do it. So let me set it up, okay? So U is 2 1/5 times 20. So you don't really need a fancy picture all the time, do you? But for some of you, that picture just kind of gives you a reminder that there's parts. So I just keep drawing the picture. I'm hoping, you know, that'll help you remember all the parts. So let's put the parts in, Ellie. What would be on right here?
That would be 20.
20. And then up the top,
That'd be
2 1/5. Okay, so 20, what do you have? 20 times 2 is 40. And then 20 times 1/5, think of it as 20 over 1.
Well, it's 25th.
25ths, exactly. which is 4, just plain 4. 5 goes into 24 whole times. And there's no remainder. Does that make sense? So 4. So your final answer is 40 plus 4, which is 44. That make sense? Okay, I think actually, even though this is kind of new, it looks like, for people. Is that true? Raise your hand if it's pretty new. So, the rest of you got this down? No practice? You don't need practice, or you need practice? Raise your hand if you need practice, even if it's not new. It's like a refresher. I think I'm going to switch the side. So instead of saying, "Did you hear about side?" I'm gonna adjust the homework a little bit. I want you to actually do this side here for homework, and I'll record instead of